carb is sugar. Period. And people think, well, how can a piece of bread be sugar?
Welcome to Together Unprocessed, where 5 friends from across the world share real conversations about food, healing, and life. Let's get started.
Welcome back to our podcast, Together Unprocessed. Today we have it's going to be short, but it's valuable information. And this episode is for anyone who have said very quietly or silently to themselves, what is a carb? And what we're going to do is we're just going to break this down for you and make it as simple as we can to let you know exactly what a carb is. Because there's many people, we have friends, and we're involved in many groups that people are like, well, I didn't know that was what a carb is. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to break it down for you. We're going to make it very simple. So first of all, let's start off. Well, first of all, good morning. I'm Kim.
Yeah, morning.
And morning, Ash. And Hugo.
Morning. Evening.
It's more
Afternoon.
Yeah.
So what exactly is a carb? A carb is really, it's any food that gives your body energy. And when we talk about any food, we talk about bread, we talk about rice, we talk about cakes, we talk about runners and bikers, which is quite funny, is they have these sugar packs, which is actually carbs. And, carbs are little energy blocks stacked together. And, your body loves carbs because they're easy and they're very, very quick fuel for your body. So, one of the things that you can keep in mind when you're thinking about carbs, think about a train. And you have a long train and you have a short train. And when you take those two and you think about short train, what you can think about is it's quick energy. It's in your body. And for example, drinking a glass of orange juice is very quick. It gets in your bloodstream, you get your high, you get your energy, boom. And then you have what we call slow energy. And when you talk about slow energy, what foods is that? For example, brown rice. So it takes longer for your body to digest, so it stays in your system longer. And the effect that you have isn't an immediate spike, it takes time. So we have, if you think about a train, you think about carbs. What is carbs? Which we just talked about. And you think about quick energy and slow energy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to break that down even further. And we're going to talk about, first of all, before I say that, a carb is sugar. Period. And people think, well, how can a piece of bread be sugar? Guess what? We're going to tell you about that right now. And I'm going to turn that over to Hugo. Hugo, tell us about how a carb turns into sugar.
Well, that process first starts with you eating. So that's the first, that's the start, It needs to get into your body somehow. So you either need to drink or eat it. So that's the first entry. Then it goes to your stomach and then into your intestines, and then that absorption starts happening. You have enzymes there that, they're like special proteins that know how to break down, those trains, as you said, those long trains were short or long, glucose into glucose, and it's sugar that's used by all the cells in your body, and your body needs glucose as well. So it gets absorbed to your bloodstream and then is distributed through your entire body, and that's how you get the energy that you're feeling. And this can happen very fast. Technically, it can even happen inside your mouth because you do have those enzymes there. It's you might have heard maybe amylase. That refers to it. So it's a more scientific term, but it's the same thing. And you have those in your intestines as well. So that basically allows you to absorb the sugar immediately into your bloodstream. That's why even, drinking sodas or juices can give you quick energy because of that, because it already gets into your blood, and so you feel that high, and your cells can use it. So that's basically the short rundown of it. There's a lot more that happens, and your body also can make sugar itself too. You don't even need to eat sugar, but it requires you to actually be able to use fat properly. You can use fat to make sugar as well, which a lot of people don't know, which is interesting too. And all the extra, sugar and fat you eat, that can get changed into fat as well. And you can later get sugar out of it too. So it's like it's a very fascinating relationship between the two. But yeah, sugar is necessary for everything in your body, and you need it.
Yeah. And, it's very interesting you bring that up, Hugo, because our next episode is going to be about ketones. And when we talk about ketones, you're going to understand exactly what Hugo's just talking about, how you can draw from fat, etc., to get energy. And on top of that, just our episode before this, go back and listen to our episode before this when sugar becomes a problem. We talk about what drives or moves the sugar into your cells, and we talk about insulin. So go back and listen to our episode before this, and it'll give you a little bit of a education on how sugar becomes a problem. And you said something very, just because what do you mean by amylase, Hugo?
To simplify it, it's basically, it's a protein. Protein, you can get it from a lot of different sources, but it's a special kind of protein. It's like if you think of trains, it's basically able to eliminate the cargo trains, or like the subsections of trains, into pieces. So a train consists of wagons, right? So you can basically, with that protein, with amylase, you can cut that train into wagons. And once you have those wagons, then that's what your body and your can absorb. Your cells can use those wagons. Those are like the individual sugar molecules. So that's basically the simple explanation of it. And you need amylase for that. That's its role. There's nothing really much more complicated to understand there. It's just if you have the high level understanding, it all becomes clear if you read it or hear about it.
And we have that in our mouth.
Yeah, it's produced there.
Interesting.
That's why when you're eating, you can even do this experiment when you're eating bread, white or rye bread, it doesn't matter. If you keep it in the mouth long enough, it will start tasting sweet, and it will get sweeter and sweeter the longer it is there. And maybe you're wondering why that happens. That's exactly why you have amylase, and that process is digestion going on inside your mouth. So if you think that this loaf of bread is not sugar, then you can do this experiment, and you'll find out that it's actually quite a lot like sugar. Yeah, it just doesn't absorb as fast, right? It takes a bit of time, a few minutes, but I'd say like probably 10 minutes maximum. It's probably a few minutes to 5 minutes, and you already will start tasting too sweet. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you can do that experiment.
And this is one of the things I get back when I'm talking to people, and I've calmed down a lot. If people want to talk to me about certain things, that's great. We'll talk. The biggest thing is they said, well, how can my bread be sugar when I just put honey in it, or I make it with just honey, or I make my bread with nothing. I just make it with water and flour and stuff like that. And it's like all carbs turn into sugar. And so when we're talking about bread, why would that bread turn into sugar if it's just flour and water and an egg? Can you explain that, Hugo?
Well, in this case, flour has starch. Starch is basically those long trains. They're complex carbohydrates, they're called. So they take time to break down. You have starch in rice as well. Loads of, all grains, rice, potatoes, they all have starch. So they're basically, a plant's form of energy storage. So that's how they keep their energy stores, when they need it. And that's how that works. So that's why they're so starch rich. But when we eat them, we can extract that energy because we have enzymes. And that's what amylase is for. But yeah, it's basically, it is like long trains or short trains, they're consistent of the same wagons. So it doesn't really matter whether it's complex or simple in terms of metabolism, because it all turns into the same sugar molecule.
Right.
But it's just how it happens, the approach, whether it's fast or slow. That's really the main difference.
Yeah. Yeah, so interesting, eh? And when I was doing keto, well, I still do keto. I do carnivore keto. I flip back and forth. And I find that, like eating, when you talk about starch or whatever, there are podcasters out there who do keto, but they'll still do rice, and just to get that carb, which part of the starch, it's still all sugar, And like I said, we'll be talking about ketones next. That's going to be very interesting. Amylase. I didn't know, Hugo. That's why I asked you to explain it, because that's so interesting. Like, it's amazing what our body can and cannot do. It just blows me away. You have anything to add, Ash?
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered everything that I would have said. And yeah, I knew about the amylase, so it's nice that you actually brought that up and was talking about that. That's a good thing. I thought I'd just add in as well that when we talk about carbs, though, a lot of people just automatically think it's the pastas and all that stuff, the pastas and the rice and but it's also in vegetables and dairy as well. So when people say they're not having any, because as a carnivore you tend to say, oh, I'm not having any carbs, or I'm low carb. But and it's just very important to remember that there still are carbs in that. I've just been going through that with my dad at the moment, explaining to him, sort of which carbs, how many carbs to have a day and everything, because he's changing stuff. And it's just to remember that, like dairy and cheeses and all those things which we tend to forget because we go, oh no, that's just whatever, that they have them in as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not just the potatoes and the rice.
Yeah, very good point. And it's like even when when I started off, and you're the same, Ash, and Hugo, you too. We've done all this experimenting in eating and stuff like that. And when we were, initially, I was eating a ton of butter, and I was eating cheeses and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I gained weight, and it's like, what the hell's going on? What's going on here? And then I started blaming it on the fat, when in actual fact, there are carbs in dairy.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true.
Yep.
And it's places where you wouldn't expect. I would say also one point about the amylase, you don't actually need it for, fruits or stuff like that, usually, because they don't really have starch. So they're like short trains already, right? They don't need to be cut up, so you can already absorb them.
Yep.
But with rice, beans, and legumes or grains, they have starch. So that's where amylase operates. It cuts down the wagons.
Cuts it down.
So you get the individual molecules, but they're the same in fruits. Only the thing with fruits is that you get fructose, which is a bit different, but it's similar. It's just, just good to know. It has an effect too. It's a sugar. Even though it doesn't act like glucose, it's still, handled differently by your body. Your liver handles it. But anyway, that's also why, fatty liver disease, non-alcohol fatty liver disease has been associated with fructose consumption too. Because if you have too much fructose, you're eating it, then that can increase your, it can increase the risk of you getting, non-alcohol fatty liver disease, because your liver has to handle the fructose.
so much.
But it usually happens with alcoholics, right? So that's where the name comes from. It's usually like fatty alcohol, liver disease. Yeah.
Makes sense. And, you know, we'll probably have an episode on fructose as well, because it's actually quite complex and a lot of people don't understand. You know, they say, well, a fruit is great. It probably is, but when all you're eating is fruit all day long, it adds up. It compounds. And when you get compounds, just like Hugo said, we have an issue.
Yeah, humans are not fruitarians, so we're not supposed to just live on fruit. So,
Exactly.
I'm sorry to say if that disappoints anyone.
But that is something that is sort of pushed at school, is also like all the fruit, like there's so many fruit breaks during the day. And you're just mentioning the fatty liver. That's why so many kids are getting the non-alcoholic fatty liver thing at such a young age. You know, there's studies coming out with kids as young as 4 and 5 getting fatty liver, and it's horrifying. And it's with this whole, you know, processed food, too many carbs, and the fruits and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think high fructose corn syrup is like a key example of this, because it's there's a lot of fructose. I think it's 60% of it, and the rest is glucose. So, you know, and they put it in all the processed stuff, ultra processed foods. So no wonder, you know, children are getting sick. And, you know, since it's a syrup, it doesn't even need digestion. You just need to put it in your mouth and it really absorbs immediately. So you get a big sugar spike, and it doesn't feel great. So, you know, it's not that different to fruits. It still like breaks down to the same stuff. But it's like the approach, you know, like it's ultra processed, you know, it immediately absorbs, you know, there's a difference, right? And when you're having sodas, those are like the worst forms. But still, everything still comes back to sugar.
Yep, exactly. And it, you know, even if you I'm 63, and I go back to when I was like, you know, 10, 12 or whatever, and I was thinking about school, we didn't eat like we did today. You know, if we got a bag of chips, we were freaking excited, and when we got them was when we went out for Halloween. I mean, it wasn't something that we ate every single day, or we would be doing something or whatever. Even when I got older, when I'm like driving, or I'm delivering, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, I never grabbed a chocolate bar. I never grabbed a bag of chips. I didn't do that. You know, I would have a sandwich or something like back then. As I got older, then I started getting more into the ultra processed, and boy, oh boy, did I get in trouble for that, right? As we all do. And that's what we're hoping that everybody is going to learn from our podcast, is you can still have your carbs. It's just the way that you know, what you're putting in your mouth. That's all it comes down to.
Become aware. Like when you're having that sandwich, you know, maybe you'll rethink that maybe it's not that different from having sugar. It's just you know, different route of it. It's like the same end result.
Yeah,
so
it's
maybe
either
have something
faster
else.
or slower.
Yeah, you can maybe have something else instead of that sandwich. You know, there's lots of tasty things that don't have so many carbs. You know?
Yep, exactly.
But that's the whole thing as well. It's like you get a lot of people say, oh, but I don't have a lot of carbs. But then they substitute that with, instead of having 2 pieces of fruit, they're having 5 pieces of fruit. So instead of having the 5, have the 2. You know, our body is not knowing, okay, I'm getting my sugar from bread, or I'm getting it from pasta, or I'm getting it from the fruit. It's just seeing it as sugar. You know, and that's what I think a lot of people don't understand as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you do get different nutrients. It varies. More carb sources you eat. Some are much more nutrient dense, some are less. You know, I'd say like in terms of carbohydrates being the most nutrient dense, it would be probably dairy. Really. You know, fruits have a lot of sugar, but they don't really have that many vitamins. They do have some minerals, which is fair. But you know, like some grains, legumes, they might have more of those, but then again, they have other stuff, which we've talked about. So you have to pick your poison, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the bottom line, right? We picked we picked the best of all the worst, right? And also too, a lot of people will eat their fruit for vitamin C as well. That's something that we hear over and over and over again. And this is so when I was following all these biohackers, well, I still do, like Dave Asprey and Ben Greenfield and Tim Ferriss and all that. One of the things that I learned is that having rice, if you cook rice with a tablespoon of coconut oil, then you put it in the fridge for 12 hours and eat it, you almost reduce that starch by half. So that's another thing too. There are, like hacks here and there. Just remember, it's still a carb. Period.
I think it's called resistant starch when that happens, right? So it's like less likely to break down into sugar. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, which I find is like if you're doing that, it's more healthy, like just going that route. But still, like in that case, you're still eating carbs. So
absolutely.
Yep.
On the topic of vitamin C and everything, I'll just and all of that. Another way to reduce it is if you actually have fermented foods.
Yes.
You can ferment pretty much everything. You can ferment your fruit, and that as well. That's going to be taking out a lot of that too. But you're going to be getting more vitamin C out of something like sauerkraut or kimchi than you will from those things because it's in that pre-digested. It's like already started digesting and breaking it down. So it's almost more beneficial. You're going to be getting more vitamin C from having that versus sometimes even taking a vitamin C supplement because it's just in the bioavailable form that it is in.
Yeah. And one of the persons that we follow. What's that, Hugo? Sorry.
Food is always better, like the source of getting your nutrients. Like instead of taking supplements. Supplements are, they might be great. Like you might have the correct chemical compound and all of that, but it still needs to absorb. And when you're eating food, you're eating in a matrix. Like it's already, it's a complex matrix, and it absorbs as it should. And it's often better just to get it from your food. But regarding the vitamin C, one aspect too that it's a good point you mentioned that fermented food is better, but it's also better because it reduces the carbs, which the carbohydrates, the glucose competes with vitamin C, so you don't get as much absorption if you're having both. That's why when you eat carbohydrates a lot, you need a lot of vitamin C. I would also say like lemons are probably good because they're like not a lot of carbs, but they have a ton of vitamin C.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Feel free to use that. Garnish
in your water.
Right.
Squeeze it in your water.
Yeah.
So I know Ash and I, and I'm pretty sure you too, Hugo, is one person we follow is Dr. Sean O'Mara, and he breaks down fermented foods for visceral fat and how it's very beneficial, and we highly recommend check him out for sure. And another thing that was really interesting when I had seen my cardiologist, and I'm fine, everybody, my heart's good. One thing he's mentioned to me, he said, if you cannot get your vitamins and minerals from your food, what makes you think you're going to get it from a supplement? And that really resonated with me, So when you break it down, I mean, the optimal way of getting your vitamins and your minerals is through your food or what you drink. And if your body can absorb it, it's going to. If it can't, it's not going to get it from a supplement.
I definitely can attest to that. I spent, over a decade eating tons of food and being undernourished. Like I was having malnutrition, which is insane, right?
Oh, wow.
When you're eating like a kilo of food per day, and, I was consuming much more food than, my classmates. But I was still getting, I still had vitamin D deficiency. I still had, even at times I had iron deficiency, anemia, things like that. It just, or low magnesium, it doesn't really make sense, right? Like you're eating a ton of food, you're getting more, vitamins, minerals than other people are getting, but you're not absorbing them. So yeah, the absorption is critical. And supplements don't save it, because I did take supplements. They can help because there's very high dose, but it's not a fix. It never fixed the problem really. It always came back. You know, half a year or a year later, it varied. So, yeah.
And just on the topic of supplements, people don't understand too. It's just, I'm just going to take vitamin D. That's all I'm going to take is vitamin D. And to help absorption, you should take it with K2. You know, so there's different things that we're taking as supplements that we think our body is absorbing, but there's something missing. And it could be something else that needs to go with it, like D and K2, to help you at least get some absorption.
Yeah.
And again,
and in food
blood
you
test.
get K2. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So you
exactly.
get those nutrients required for absorption. So you don't need to memorize or do all of this stuff if you just eat whole foods and, you know, the right foods. So
Exactly. And you know, get some sunlight. Don't be afraid of sunlight. There's so many different things. And you know, this is another thing that's very interesting too, is supplements. I am amazed. And even with myself, how much I did not know about vitamins and minerals that my body needs, that my body isn't getting, and how to get them. And once you start breaking that down, you start going down that rabbit hole, I guarantee you're going to have one of those aha moments. 100%. Because most of us have, you know, like eating a steak. What do you get from a steak? You know, you break it down and you get a lot from a steak. However, if it's sitting in a feedlot, are you really getting everything you need from that steak? Or what is that cow eating, et cetera, et cetera? And that's a whole other topic we'll be getting into as well.
yeah.
So to bring us into what happens if we eat too much, I'm going to turn that over to Ash. Ash, tell us all about it. What?
You're putting me in the hot seat now. I don't have all these trained explanations and things that you and Hugo do. I might have to collaborate with Hugo here on this one.
That's fine.
With my mark going down, but yeah, I'll do the non-scientific side on just with kids these days. And in a world that we live in, like I said earlier on, they're just exposed to all these sugars and things like that. And it's no wonder that our kids actually can't sit in a classroom and concentrate, where they are on this constant short train lifestyle that they all live in, where it's the fruits, the fruit juices, the sugars, and it's this constant up down yo-yo, because they are constantly eating. So yes, I suppose it's just that would be with all these sugars. It's just that probably like being on a bus, when you're a bus driver driving, you know, and then you've got all these little kids making noises. That would probably be the sugar that these kids also are feeling constantly in their brains. That's why there's so many cases of ADHD and all these people on medications. Whereas if they'd just reduced all of these things, you'd probably find that they'd calm down a lot as well, and wouldn't have as many sort of, not as much attention, or have more attention than they do, because, you know, their brains are always on fire with the amount of sugars and trains. Our bodies only need that 1 teaspoon of sugar, and we are constantly feeding all these short train sugar blocks. So I'll get to Hugo to explain the other side.
Well, also before we jump into our savior Hugo, he may as well be a scientist and stuff, because he's just so knowledgeable. You know, people don't realize that when you eat carbs, it changes into sugar. If your body has too much sugar, go to our episode before this, as we explain when sugar becomes a problem. Where does it get stored? Fat cells. And then all of a sudden we have an obesity problem. And that's one of the biggest things is we want to drive home, is that carbs are sugar. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's what we're breaking down for you, just like Ashleigh said, you know?
So yes, it is, like you said, Kim, it is an epidemic so that we're having with kids, all obese. They all have very short attentions, where they can't sit and concentrate for a long period of time, where there's got to be those constant breaks, and they're eating way too much. throughout the day. It's not just food is constantly pushed on, and if they
Exactly.
if they choose not to, they're asked why, and that's something that we need to change.
And this is a good question for the audience too. Like, imagine, ask yourself, why are these kids eating so much? Why are they so hungry, really? Because if you're eating nutrient-dense food that fills you, satiates you, you shouldn't feel hungry all the time.
Exactly.
So, what we think is that, it's these sugars, right? So it's like a yo-yo effect, up and down. You get too much blood, like your blood sugar just skyrockets, then it plummets. And when it plummets, you feel hungry, really, because your body is starving, it needs energy. So that's why you get the hunger again. And when you eat, that same process just keeps happening. It's a chaotic loop, really. It's like, the loop really doesn't stop. You just need to break it entirely to make it stop. And that's the core issue, I think. These kids are just eating too much sugar, really.
Yep.
Because if they ate more balanced food, richer in protein and fats, then they wouldn't have such a problem. And
Exactly.
we've experienced this too, I think. I've experienced it with my family, and I'm sure you two have also seen this work.
And it comes down to simplicity too, like the ease of it. It's so much easier to give your kid a bowl of cereal, than to actually make them, eggs, for example. And our lives have just become so processed. Like, it's unbelievable. And I mean, that's what we're all about. Together, Unprocessed, is unprocessing ourselves. And it's easy to do. However, when you get into a moment in, like, Ashleigh knows, every single one of her minutes in a day are book solid, right? And I mean, Hugo, you're extremely busy and stuff like that, although you've made the changes. When you can just grab, 3 or 4 slices of bread and make yourself a sandwich, it's way easier than cooking a steak or cooking eggs or anything that's, very nutritional for you. Or even if you're eating beans and legumes and you're keto or whatever, that's a process too. Sometimes it's just easier. And it's killing
But
us.
I would say, like, cooking is actually easier when you're just down to very simple ingredients, like
Absolutely.
a steak.
Yeah.
It's actually, I don't even think about it most of the day, and I just need to do some prep, and hours later I can cook a really nice steak.
Yeah,
So it doesn't
exactly.
actually take that long. It just takes that initial effort and just keeping the habit. So these processed foods, ultra processed foods, are expensive too, and they're not cheap, and they're even more expensive on your health. That's the cost you don't see on the package. That comes later. So these cereal, actually have a real breakfast, like eggs and bacon. Like, do that. That's much healthier. Your kids will feel better. You're probably gonna feel better. And it's very satiating, so they probably won't be hungry even until lunch or maybe longer. So why not just do that? It just takes that initial step.
Yeah. Just, the ultra processed food, just take it out of your diet. Start there.
Yeah.
Even if you buy something in a box, 3 ingredients or less, just start there. Get rid of those Fruit Loops. They're not good for you. They're not good for your child
The
at all.
less ingredients, the better. So
exactly.
it should alarm you when you see a long list of ingredients. Don't buy that. Buy something equivalent that has a few ingredients, and that's how you can make good change.
And it's like, what the hell are those ingredients? You pick up a box, you start reading it, and even the first word on there, you're like, you need a dictionary. Like,
Yeah, you need to be a nutritionist or like maybe a food scientist,
Right?
to extract the meaning.
If you don't know what it is, don't put it in your temple, and your temple be in your body. Just don't do it.
I've actually had that conversation this week where we were looking at cupboards, and I said, and I've done it, it takes about 3 minutes to scramble an egg. and it takes 3 minutes to do those instant noodles where you're boiling them and all
Exactly.
that. So it's just a case of choosing the choice. And you said, like you said, Kim, it's a simple replacement. Instead of going for that chips, get a few frozen veggies out the freezer and put it in some boiling water. It's like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just a case of, so
Yeah.
we've made it complicated.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, good point. Yep, exactly. I mean, to bring us to a close, because we want to keep these short for you guys, is, just remember, carbs aren't the enemy. What's the enemy is, think of them as fuel, because they are fuel, but, it's the amount and the pattern that matters. If you're eating breads and you're eating cakes and you're eating pastas and you're doing this every single day to fuel your body, you may want to reconsider that. You may want to look at that. And like Hugo said, try that experiment. Try putting bread in your mouth for a while and see what happens. See if it starts turning sweet. So, any last thoughts before we close it out? Hugo?
I just maybe add that, it's convenience becomes inconvenience. So this is what, eventually happens. People get these chronic illnesses and all of that. That's the combination of it. So just avoid all that and, start living your best life instead of, just suffering through. So that's what we're trying to get out there.
Exactly.
We know these things work, and we don't need to be doctors or scientists to know this. We know it firsthand. We've read a lot of material and we've experienced it firsthand, which is the most important part.
Exactly.
And we know this works, and we've seen it work in other people. So
thousands of others of people, like way up there.
Yeah, tens of thousands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. And we call it N=1. Just try it on yourself, see how you feel. It's all you have to do. Just start there. Ash?
I was going to say, just things are starting a lot younger than what they used to. So start watching what you're eating, what your kids are eating, because if that's where it all starts, with the fatty livers, that the attention, the ADHDs, all of that, with the numbers and all that that we've got. But it's all progress over perfection. So like you were saying, just do small things at once, just take note and slowly make changes. One thing at a time. You don't need to go all in. Just do one thing, change one thing today, and then that's how you do it.
That was my dog Billy. She's terrified of thunderstorms and is thundering out. So she had to let me know. Like, Mom, cuddle me. Exactly. And, just be aware that most foods that you're eating are carbs, and carbs are sugar, and how they break down in your body. And, just start there. It's called awareness. Be aware and start there. It's a great place to start. That's where we all started. We're like, I wonder what this is. And you start going down that rabbit hole and you start seeing how your body feels. And then you're realizing that there might be something to this. There just might be something to this. So on that note, we just want to let you know is you don't need to fix this today. All you need to know is that you're not alone. And with that, you guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. Have a great sleep, Ash. Hugo, the rest of your afternoon. Goodbye.
All right. See you.